This is Bob Hunger, the Extension Wheat Pathologist at Oklahoma State University, and I'm here today to talk to you a little bit about Barley yellow dwarf virus and the problems it causes on wheat in Oklahoma. Barley yellow dwarf virus symptoms are seen first in usually February, but it's more so in March and April that you can really start telling the symptoms of BYDV, because the effects of cold, wet soils through the winter are starting to fade by then. Generally, the symptoms of Barley yellow dwarf virus are first seen in the field as irregular circles scattered across the field. Some of these may be quite large and some of them may be quite small. Usually within these circles you'll find leaf discolorations that can range from yellow to purple, and quite often it's the tips of the leaves that are more affected than the main body of the leaf itself. And as I said, these are arranged in irregular circles across the field because the virus is transmitted by a number of different aphids that occur in Oklahoma. Bird cherry oat aphid is the most common culprit that transmits this virus, but green bugs, corn leaf aphid, and many other types of aphids can also be involved with its transmission. The disease cycle is a little bit complicated because it is this virus transmitted by an aphid type disease. The aphids, of course, will over summer on possibly volunteer wheat, other grasses, weeds over the summer, and a lot of these alternate hosts or alternative hosts also will survive or allow the virus to survive. Well, those aphids then, depending on when your wheat is planted, will move back into those fields of seedling wheat and of course carry the virus with them and transmit that virus into that seedling wheat. So you can have the spread of the virus both within and between fields by the aphids through that fall, and of course that brings up the point that earlier planting is going to lengthen the time that infection can occur in the fall, and it's those fall infections that'll be the most damaging. Usually you won't see the symptoms being expressed then until very late March, very late February into March or April. And then of course the symptoms will stay with the plants and the yields can be reduced by over 50% depending on how early that infection occurred. Now, for controlling barley yellow dwarf, there's a number of different methods that can be used. Of course, I mentioned a couple times that planting date is a possibility, but that has somewhat limited effectiveness because depending on the severity or coldness of the winter, aphids may be active through a lot of that winter, and so at any time those aphids are active, they can be transmitting the virus. Resistant varieties is another approach that can be taken, and there are some promising results with this. And if you look at the variety comparison chart that's produced by Oklahoma State University, you can see on it that there's really three different reaction types of the varieties. There's a group that are very highly susceptible to barley yellow dwarf, a moderately susceptible group, and then there is one group that's moderately resistant. This moderately resistant group will provide some protection against this, but depending on aphid numbers and virus titer, virus amount that gets injected into the plant, they're not going to be highly resistant like you would expect to see some of the highly resistant varieties be to a disease such as leaf rust or stripe rust. The best we've been able to do with genetic resistance in the wheat varieties is to get some that have some moderate resistance, so it will help, but it can be overwhelmed in certain years. Some of the other methods that are used to control BYDV, of course, scouting quite regularly for the aphids that are occurring in the field and then using insecticide sprays to kill those aphids is one method that will help, but quite often those aphids have reached levels high enough that they will have transmitted virus, and again it won't be a complete control of the barley yellow dwarf virus disease. Seed treatments are also available. There's basically two of these that will work. One is gaucho, called imidacloprid, and cruiser, thiamethoxam. These are the similar type of compounds made by two different companies, and of course if you're planting wheat, especially a little bit earlier, it's very highly recommended to use a seed treatment that has either gaucho or cruiser in it, as this will provide some of that protection through the fall preventing that fall infection of barley yellow dwarf, lowering the amount of severity of that disease that you'll see then the next spring. Fungicides, of course, have no effect on a virus disease, and so if you are using a seed treatment, you make absolutely certain that it has one of those insecticides in it, because the fungicide itself will not have an effect on the disease. And so that's the summary of barley yellow dwarf, and if you need further information on this disease or any others, please contact myself, or especially contact your county educator for additional information or help in sending a sample in to be diagnosed.